and welcome to the latest episode of the Online Warriors podcast. It's July. This episode will be premiering on the 1st of July, not to be confused with the 4th of July, which is coming up this weekend. And we're still here. Month 7 of 2020. Hey, are we more than half? I guess we're technically exactly halfway through 2020 at the time this comes out. So I think we should take a second. I'm here with Nerdbomber and Techtic, of course, and we should just, the three of us, and with our listeners, take a second to just rejoice that we're halfway there. Sing the Bon Jovi song. How are you guys doing?
I'm pretty good. No complaints here. How about you, Techtic?
I'm doing well.
I have a lot of complaints. This year's been horrible. I don't know if you guys are trying to...
I thought you meant like in the right now. Yeah, 2020 is not great. My life at the moment today, not bad. But 2020 as a whole can go suck a duck.
You guys got to be careful. If you go out and someone asks you how 2020 is going and you say it's going fine, you're going to get punched right in the face with that kind of attitude. But yes, we're here. Everything's fine. We're sitting in chairs with microphones doing podcasts. So how bad could we really be? We got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to be talking about all of this exciting Avengers gameplay, this entire War Table video where they laid out new trailers and revealed the main villain, showed us some more gameplay than what we saw on A-Day. So we're going to obviously dive right into that. We're also going to talk about this big Pokemon news that probably has many of our listeners rather incensed. Of course, talking about Pokemon Unite. And of course, we would also be remiss if we did not talk about Apple. We're going to talk about Apple today, guys. Some of the news about the iPhone 12, and specifically the fact that reportedly there's going to be no charger in the box, which is kind of, I suspect it will be a point of debate amongst the three of us and hopefully amongst some of our listeners on the social medias as well. But let's start at the start with maybe the biggest piece of nerd news from the week and talk about this Avengers. I don't even know what to call it. I guess they call it an extended gameplay video, but it had trailers. It revealed the villain's name, who I still can't pronounce. Is it MODOK?
Maddock.
MODOK. Okay, I guess we all just said it different. I think MODOK sounds good. So let's roll with that. Which stands for something designed only for killing. I don't remember what the first two. Techtic, want to help me out? You're the comic book guy. I don't want to put you on the spot, but is it like machine?
It's machine something designed for killing.
There are quite a few different acronyms for this, in fact. The M can stand for 3 different things, according to Wikipedia. Mental organism designed only for killing.
That's it.
Mobile organism designed only for
mental.
killing. Or mechanized organism designed only for killing. I guess we're going with mental. It would make sense that it's mental because this guy's basically all head. If you haven't seen what he looks like, just a giant head.
Yeah, he is.
In what looks like a television with like little baby arms and legs. And this shows up in the trailer, guys. It's a very quick reveal at the end of one of the story trailers that they showed. It's big news for comic book folks who know more about who he is. I mean, I know about AIM because I watched Iron Man 3. And granted, in that iteration of AIM, we were dealing with Aldrich Killian, who in that, spoiler alert, turned out to be the Mandarin, even though he wasn't really the Mandarin. Kind of confusing mix of comic book and movie lore there. So I know about AIM. I don't know anything about MODOK. As a Marvel person, I am introduced to most villains the same exact way that most people are, which is you see them in the movie and you learn about them that way. But my understanding is that the reveal of MODOK as the main villain for this game has generated quite a bit of excitement. He is a big baddie. He's one of the older big baddies that all of the Avengers have faced at one point or another. So it's a big deal. But let's take a step back for a second. General impressions, both from the story trailer and from the gameplay, did this game's stock go up for you guys relative to what it was when we saw the previous footage?
So for me, I'm very happy with the choice of villain. MODOK has kind of been, in my interpretation, Marvel's answer to Brainiac. And if you don't know who MODOK is, you probably at least know who Brainiac is. He is like Superman's all-time arch enemy. He can control tech with his mind because he's basically a man-computer thing. So kind of the same vein with this MODOK character. Great villain, great competitive against Tony Stark, and something fresh from what we've seen going back to the movies, which is also exciting. The other thing that this showed me that was better than what we originally saw a few months back was it looked like it was more refined as far as the graphics go, which is definitely a plus in my book. And the gameplay just looked absolutely phenomenal. It looked like what I was expecting to get when we played the Marvel Alliance game, and that kind of fell short as far as the gameplay, but this looks like it's exactly what I was looking for. It gives me a single story with my own kind of skill tree, as well as I get to play with Nerdbomber and co-op options as well. So I'm very, very excited for it, and I will go out and say I am going to pre-order this game.
Yeah, I will say you kind of hit the nail on the head in terms of my comparison. I was going to say this reminded me a lot, even down to the villain of Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. It looked like a little bit more of a in-depth and realistic type gameplay, but at the end of the day, it seemed like the core like beat 'em up type gameplay where you have a skill tree for every character kind of still fell in the same vein as Marvel Ultimate Alliance, and MODOK did make an appearance in the Switch exclusive. So to me, that wasn't like they kind of played it off as if this was this crazy new villain that people who play the comic book or who read the comic books would be super stoked for. But if you didn't know anything outside of the comic books, it would be this brand new villain. But it kind of felt like a rehash because they literally just had him as a villain in Ultimate Alliance 3. But yeah, I mean, the gameplay looked really polished. I think the character models looked a lot better from what we saw in the past. I don't know if they refined the character models or if we've just been now so far removed from Endgame, because I think the last time we saw any kind of gameplay or teaser from this game, we were kind of right on the heels of Endgame and having a new Avengers movie. So I think being separated from that, maybe that's helping me a little bit. It didn't feel so jarring to not see the Marvel Cinematic Universe faces on these characters. Story looked interesting. I think the multiplayer kind of looked like a fusion, like I said again, of Ultimate Alliance, but then multiplayerized. Like when they were going through the menu of like the different collectible and items that you'd have to get in the multiplayer mode, it kind of reminded me of the menus or interface from Destiny a little bit, maybe. I don't know if you guys got that same feeling, but I mean, overall, it looked pretty cool and cautiously optimistic. It looks like there's going to be a lot to offer, at least in this game, single player and multiplayer. So I am on board for now.
I too did get a Destiny vibe from the hub station, as well as the skill trees and character customization.
So I want to, I'm going to agree with you on a lot of things and disagree with you on a number of things, but I'll start by saying, yes, the game's stock definitely went up for me. I don't know if I'm on team pre-order at this point, but I'm certainly more interested in it, given all this footage. I think the character models were vastly improved. I do agree with you, Nerdbomber, that I think last time we saw this stuff, it suffered greatly from direct juxtaposition with an Avengers movie having recently come out and knowing these characters in a certain incarnation for so long. You know, it was hard to remove them from that. And in general, it's a tough thing to remove the Avengers from the Infinity Saga, you know, fighting Thanos and getting these stones. You know, it's for the movies, you know, they're eventually going to have to deal with that as well. And that's coming. But now in the game world, we have to do that. So I think Square Enix deserves credit for that alone. But the graphics didn't impress me. And granted, I think a lot of it, when I first watched it, I think I was watching the live stream when I first saw some of it. And I was like, there are a lot of frame rate drops here. And then I waited until it was re-uploaded later. And it's still, I was like, there are a lot of frame rate drops here. And I expected it to get better. I don't know, you know, if it is some kind of work from home situation that's causing that. You know, I think for the most part, the graphics looked fine, but I think there were specific sequences where you saw the game engine's pants down, so to speak. So that was a little bit concerning. What I really want to talk about, you know, the gameplay you said looked very beat 'em up. I was getting some Spider-Man vibes. I love the customization. I love the skill trees. All looks like something I would be into. It also kind of reminded me a little bit of Arkham. What I want to talk about is it Miss Marvel? Is that who this playable character is? We need to talk about... This is a problem for me, and I think this is probably going to be just a me problem, but I cannot take the big hand whooshy thing seriously at all. It's going to be a problem for me.
That's just a you problem. That's her insignia. That's what she's known for. That's her power.
It's so... I think there's something to be said for these characters, which admittedly originated in comic book form, in essentially cartoon form, they have to make their way off from that medium to another one gracefully. And I think the MCU gets all the credit in the world for that. With someone who's got a Mr. Fantastic thing going on, as well as like a just general dilation of hand size thing going on, that's going to be hard for me to take seriously. Maybe I am the only one, but watching that, I was like, I can't imagine taking that seriously.
So do you not like Mr. Fantastic then? Like in the Fantastic Four?
I don't.
No?
I don't. And I have a similar problem with that, is even the Fantastic Four movies, which weren't, even the ones that weren't the most recent one, which was widely panned, I remember thinking very definitively, like, this is pretty goofy.
I could see you on Christmas morning, 1995. You get your very own Stretch Armstrong. Open it, and you're disgusted.
Well, okay, but a Stretch Armstrong is a toy. Like there's only a certain extent to which I take that seriously. But and also, I'm an adult now, Well, at the very least, I'm a kid in an adult's body.
I mean, I get what you mean. Because, it's one thing. So for me, for a video game, when I saw this in Marvel Ultimate Alliance, I had no issues with it. But again, this game seems like it wants to take a slightly more realistic take on the superhero game. And it is a little bit jarring, and it'll be interesting even to see how they bring that into the MCU, because I don't know if we're at a point where any CGI in a live action movie will make that look normal, and I really don't think it will. So
exactly, and that's exactly my point. Is I think with games like Marvel's Avengers is trying to be, where they're trying to replicate, whether they say it or not, they are trying to replicate the cinematic experience that we've gotten from these movies. And the cinematic universe has bent over backwards and done a great job doing so, of taking characters that are as cartoony as Captain America, who is a very cartoony character, and getting him to a place where I take him seriously. You could say the same thing about Doctor Strange, who's really just waving his hands in the air and things are happening. I think with a lot of those characters, it's very possible, and I think they've accomplished that, made that leap. But with someone who has powers like Ms. Marvel and with Mr. Fantastic, which I agree, I think it's just harder to do. And I'm not saying they can't do it. While we're on the topic of Captain America, too, to kind of change gears a little bit, what do you think the chances are that he is actually dead? Because that's the premise of this game. Not a spoiler. The premise of this game is that A-Day happens and Captain America dies, and the Avengers are proverbially picking up the pieces and trying to fix the problems that were caused by A-Day. So what do you think the chances are that he never comes back? Because for me, spoiler alert, for me, it's 5% at most.
Simply because I don't like Captain America, I know he is going to reappear in this game, because I cannot get rid of him.
You want him to say that.
I just don't like him.
I disagree with both of you. I think he is 100% dead, and they're going to use that as he himself might not be around, but his symbol lives on. And that's going to have this heart-wrenching moment, and there'll be someone who takes on the mantle. That's the approach that I think they're going to take.
So question for you, though. In comic book, whether it's a actual comic book story or movies, no dead character ever really stays dead. You give them long enough, and they are going to show back up.
Fine, but I don't think it's in the scope of this story.
Fair enough.
Potentially for the same reason that, what we were just talking about, where you're trying to make this a cinematic thing that, yes, it's still a comic book based thing, but it could be taken more seriously. And I think it might be tough that's the one thing I could say, that where that 5% is for me is, first of all, there's value in that double fake of people saying, for sure he's going to come back, and then having him not come back, people will be surprised. But there's also the fact that, okay, if he's dead, you can't just make him come back. It's not like comic books where you have the Lazarus pit and stuff where people just go in and they come out alive. But I don't. So Techtic, you're saying that you think he's
absolutely 100% dead. I mean, think about all of the times, and we talked about this last week, where Batman dies and all these other people take on the costume, because Batman never dies, right? It's always about the symbol, what he stands for,
right? For
justice, for fairness, and that is a cinematic take.
I mean, hey, I would be down to see a different iteration of Captain America. I'm actually very excited for a different iteration of Captain America in the MCU. I am totally ready for it.
So who do you think, okay, so tactic follow-up question then, if you think someone else, are you saying you think someone else is going to take up the mantle, or you're saying proverbially he's going to exist as a symbol and no one is going to be him?
I think in the scope of this story, he will stay as just a symbol of justice and rightness in the world, because that's what they're trying to do, right? Because it's this big corrupt company, right. And in the name of Captain America, they're going to shut it down and be fair and just to both humans and inhumans.
I just have this bad feeling in the pit of my stomach that they're going to Batman versus Superman us, though. I really do.
I don't know what the reference is there.
Superman's going to come back all of a sudden and save the day.
Sure. That happens in Justice League, spoiler alert, but I'm saving you a terrible movie. Okay, well, I guess the question I was leading to is if you're saying someone else will take up the mantle. In the comics, Winter Soldier has done that, and I think Falcon has done that. Who do you want? Do you think it'd be cool for Winter Soldier to show up and be like, I'm Captain America now? And it's worth noting too that there are other characters that we've been told are in this game that haven't shown up in this content. Back when the 8A stuff was revealed, we got to look at Hank Pym, who is, as far as I can tell, absent completely from this latest material. So where does he fit into this?
I think there was a wink at Hank Pym when they called the base the Anthill. So I think he is going to show up. I simply just think he wasn't in the trailer. And then the other thing is...
The last trailer had showed him in a very real way that he is going to show up. It's just a matter of where he fits into this. Maybe he's just a part of the team that's working in a more behind-the-scenes way. Maybe he'll exist in the form of DLC, though I doubt that. It's I'm kind of bringing this up because I think they've mentioned, and I think they mentioned in the footage that they're going to be adding more characters that are going to be provided at no cost, and they're going to be adding more customization. So there's potentially a really solid base to build on here. And that's one of the things that has me most excited. But were you going to say something else?
Yeah, you asked me who I'd want to take the mantle. I would go with Bucky, because he is a flawed character by nature, and I like a flawed character to take on the perfect symbol.
What I'm kind of hoping, going back to how you mentioned that they're adding DLC characters and content for free moving forward, what I would totally love to see is something akin to like DC Universe Online, where this eventually turns into this long-standing game that once you buy it, it's just going to be ever present with a bunch of fun new content, and people will go back every 6 months to a year and check back in and upgrade their character and get back into the story. Because to me, I'm still impressed with the fact that DC Universe Online is still around and has such a big player base. I think they just ported it to Switch, if I remember correctly, like 6 months ago or something like that. And I still remember, man, it must have been at this point for probably like 2010, so a good decade ago. I remember vividly watching Techtic playing this game instead of studying for a test, but he was playing this game, and having something like that in the MCU, I think, would be amazing. And not that I don't like DC Universe Online, and I love the DC universe as a whole, and I just think the movies have been terrible, but DC is awesome. But if you manage to capitalize as a developer on that Marvel hype and make an ever-present game like that, that would be awesome.
Well, and that model is what you mentioned Destiny before, granted in a totally different way, but that's the model that Destiny has too. And granted, they're asking you to pay for expansions every few months, but it is supposed to be this living, breathing thing that, like you said, people can move away from it. But 6 months later, when something new happens, they'll come back and they'll level up, and they'll continue to customize and recustomize their character, and there'll be new pieces of story for them to get involved in. So I do think that, and even with games like Fortnite, you're seeing more and more gaming experiences like that crop up, where, and speaking without discussing the monetary aspects of it, I think developers really do want to start making these games where they make one base game that is this world that they live in, and then they can piecemeal out new experiences that add to that base experience. And I would imagine that that's what Square Enix is going for here, and I'm for it, generally speaking. So Avengers, when... it's funny.
I think it comes out later this year, right?
September.
I'm going to look it up. Yeah, I'm sure it said it in the video, but I
just told you guys it's September.
September 4th. Yeah, I was looking for the exact day. September 4th is when this drops. So be on the lookout for that. I have a feeling this is not the last time we're going to talk about it, but it is coming. And if you haven't seen the video, the War Table video, go check it out. Hit us up on the social meets at Illeagle86, at OW Illeagle 86, at OW Nerdbomber, at OW Techtic, and our main account at Online Warriors 1. This is all on Twitter, by the way. We'd love to chat with you. So hit us up there. Staying in the game world for a little while longer, we need to talk about Pokemon because I have an article open in front of me from IGN. I'm going to preface this by saying I have not watched this reveal video. I believe you two have. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I watched it live.
Pokemon Unite. Here's what happened the way I understand it. I am not a Pokemon person. This should be a well-known fact. Anyone who's watched the podcast or listened to it. Essentially, Pokemon released a video last week detailing their newest game called Pokemon Unite, and it is their most disliked video on YouTube ever, and it's among the more disliked videos on YouTube, period, as far as I'm aware. Essentially, they have teased a new game, and I think fans, for the most part, were expecting something different than a MOBA-style game, but that's what they got. And to me, what this harkens back to is we talked about Diablo. That was last year, I think, when Blizzard was teasing a new Diablo game. People were all excited for Diablo 4, and then they said, no, this is a mobile game. And granted, this is not a mobile game. This is at least a step removed from that, but it feels similar in that sense. So, as a non-Pokemoner, I am arm's length from this other than seeing, oh boy, Pokemon might have put their foot in their mouth. What are your guys' thoughts on this as, I think, fairly rabid Pokemoners?
So it is a mobile game, but it's also on the Switch. My take was it doesn't look great, and it looks okay.
And free to start,
and I know I'm going to play it. It's just...
I want to add, it says free to start, which does not mean free to play, which sounds like a money grab to me. Sorry, you touched on some details that I wanted to hit.
That for sure was when I heard that, I kind of cringed a little bit because I would just want something that I could just mindlessly play. And I don't care that it's on my phone. I'm a Pokemon fan through and through. When Pokemon Go came out, I was day one, flicking balls. No, forget I said that. Day one, I was catching Pokemon. So I'm 100% into it, but it looks incredibly underwhelming. It's kind of akin to Pokemon Dungeons is what it reminded me of. But again, it doesn't look like anything great. I'd prefer something more in the actual game instead of these mobile side shots.
What, you're not playing Pokemon Toothbrush or whatever that's called?
No.
It seems like their cardinal sin may have been, teasing this to their fans. They're fans who are known to like a certain kind of game that is not a MOBA style mobile game. I think we talked about Pokemon Snap last week, and to me that is an anomaly in that it is a Pokemon game that is unlike every other Pokemon game. It is totally different.
See, I would disagree. I think the setup is really what got them here. I don't think Pokemon fans are averse to new game experiences. I mean, look at Pokemon Go and how that took off and basically swept the world with basically everyone playing that game. I think their biggest problem was, you just said that we talked about Pokemon Snap last week, and they had a Pokemon Direct or a Nintendo Direct or whatever it was called. They have so many different names for all these different conferences now. And they showed Pokemon Snap for all of, 30 seconds to a minute. And that is arguably something that people are extremely excited for. So you have something like that in a 30-second block of time that everyone is super hyped about. And then you tease them at the end of that and say, next week, we have a super mega incredible game reveal that we're not willing to tell you. It's
better than this.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you drop Pokemon Unite. And honestly, I didn't think it looked that bad for a free-to-start game. And honestly, what I've noticed, most of the free-to-start games on Switch, you can either play it for a few hours and then you hit like a story cap, or you're limited in like what characters and what things you can do in the game, and then you have to buy more or add them on. So it doesn't look terrible. I think it's an interesting concept. I think MOBAs are still very, very popular, and especially when you put a Pokemon lens on it. I mean, that's basically what they did with Pokemon Go. They took a game type that actually wasn't very popular at all, slapped a Pokemon skin on it, and it went off like crazy. I think that's what they're trying to go for here, and I think having it as its own special reveal and spending 11 minutes on it really just kind of missed the mark in terms of marketing. Because when you build something like that up, people were saying that, oh, this could be like the Pokemon Let's Go remake for Gold and Silver, or it's going to be the next installment, or maybe it'll be like
Pikachu.
Yeah, or like Detective Pikachu, like a complete remake for the Switch type deal. And instead you get Pokemon Unite. I mean, if this would have
Right.
been one of the 30-second snippets of last week's show, I don't think anyone would have cared. I think people would have been like, oh, that looks kind of cool. I'd play this. But
I agree that the framing is important. I stand by my point, though. I think to use Pokemon Go as an example of them doing something different to appeal to their fans is only half true. And what I mean by that is that, yes, it harnessed AR technology in a different way, and it transformed the experience of playing Pokemon. But guess what you're doing when you're playing Pokemon Go? You're playing Pokemon. You're playing exactly the same. Like, I haven't played the game as much, but I know what you do in Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue. You're a guy and you walk around and catch Pokemon. Guess what you do in Pokemon Go? You walk around and catch Pokemon. You occasionally go to gyms and face, I don't know, gym leaders or something. It's different, yes, but it's different only in the sense that it's delivered to you in a different way. I think it's fundamentally the same experience. And I really do feel like Pokemon Snap is an anomaly in that it's totally different. And this mobile game is totally different. And yes, MOBA is popular, but I think it's a combination of the two things.
Yeah, but
I think
even
you're totally
look
right
at-
about the framing.
look at like Pokken, though. I mean, people love that. It's a completely different style of game. Like, you're not catching Pokemon at all. So I think basically you could skin Pokemon as almost anything. And they went into some really interesting places, especially in the DS era. Like, I know they redid and remastered Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, but they also had like Pokemon Conquest, and there was another one that I'm thinking of, and now it's escaping me.
Pokemon Pinball, remember that?
Dude,
the
Pokemon
Rumble
Pinball.
pack.
Yes, on
Yeah, with the Rumble
Game
pack.
Boy, that was my most played cartridge ever. I had Pokemon Pinball, the original one, I think for the color and for the advance, and oh my god, most
Bring
played
that
game.
back.
Honestly, heck yeah. If they could bring back, please, Nintendo people out there, if you are listening to us, please bring me back Pokemon Pinball,
With the
because that
Switch.
yeah, it was one of the best pinball experiences. And I know it was like the heyday of the 90s when pinball was like super cool because everyone had pinball on their Windows. Not that pinball
Oh, yeah.
isn't cool. Like, there's a subculture of pinball that's actually really awesome out there. But everyone had, what was it, like Windows Astro Pinball or something. So people were into it and playing virtual pinball all the time. So like,
And they could do a really cool cardboard cutout for it.
dude, yes, it would be like Nintendo Labo. Oh, that's amazing. I love this idea.
It's funny. When I first brought it up, I thought it was an N64 game, but it's just because of that enormous Rumble pack that you put in your Game Boy Color. I remember it much better now, but yeah, it had that big old Rumble pack.
And
That
you
was cool.
actually, you progress through like different levels and stuff, and there were different things. Obviously, like any pinball game, there were different objectives per level, but I remember it was so much fun. I played the heck out
Besides
of that.
Pokemon Snap, I think that's the one that the Pokemon that I played the most was that one. Just because it's at the end of the day, it's just pinball.
You know what's interesting? Sometimes I think about, because there's so many different variations of Pokemon, whether it's watching the TV show, watching the movies, playing the mainline games, playing the offshoot games, reading the books. I remember there were even like book adaptations of the TV show, playing the card game. Like, how many hours of my life have I dedicated to Pokemon? Because it's probably a really scary amount of time.
Right. I shudder to think. I've somehow escaped the zeitgeist. But Pokemon Unite, it's coming. I don't know if there's a release date on this one. Let me again do a quick Google. No, it's just been announced. June 24th. It doesn't seem like there's a release date for it yet.
I will say, I'm not a big MOBA player, but I think I already tweeted this out from our account, but I would totally be interested in getting together a Online Warriors little crew to try this game out, because I need someone to walk me through MOBAs.
Well, I'm not a MOBA guy and I'm not a Pokemon guy, so
I'm a Charmander guy.
I will cheerlead that from the sidelines. Right now, we are going to head to the sidelines for 30 seconds or so while we shout out some of our friends. But before we do, I want to shout out our Patreon producer, Mr. Ben Checkness, as we do every episode. Ben's been supporting us for a long time. We thank him for that. He supports us at the highest of our 3 levels of Patreon support, which is the night level. And as a result, he gets this shout out and the producer credit on the show. He also gets the occasional guest spot on the show, as well as access to our monthly secret segment and vlog. And also he gets input into our weekly game segment, which we will have at the end of the show. Techtic will be hosting today, so I'm excited for that. If you're not as cool as Ben, it's understandable. We also have a Squire level of support, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment and vlog. And then, of course, there is the lowly page, which gives you access to the monthly secret segment. So if you're interested in giving back to us and supporting what we do, we would super appreciate that. We thank you for listening, and we thank you for the support. You can head over to patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast for more of the details. We will be right back.
Let's see, Alex. What do you think of Jaws, which is at 97% Rotten Tomatoes?
I find it to be anti-shark propaganda. What do you feel about the Entourage movie, which is at a meager 33%?
I think they finally got Hollywood right. How about It Follows, 97%?
Worse than your parents giving you the sex is evil talk. How do you feel about Juno, which is at 94%?
That would be a movie that celebrates a teenage homewrecker. How about Bewitched at 25%?
Best television adaptation ever put to film. How do you feel about American Hustle at a towering 93%?
Overwrought awards bait. Righteous Kill, 19%.
The movie that Michael Mann wishes he had made when he created Heat.
Sounds about right. I'm Julio.
I'm Alex, and we are the Contrarians.
As you can tell, our thing is that we rage against the Rotten Tomatoes machine,
regardless of what we really feel.
Find us on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn,
Facebook, Twitter, we're everywhere.
All right, we're back, and we're here to talk, move away from video games for the time being, for our last piece of news, and we're here to talk about the iPhone 12, which actually, I am super excited about this. I currently have an iPhone 6, so I'm due for an upgrade. Yep, I've thought about the iPhone 11, but based on everything I've heard about the iPhone 12, namely that it has 5G, fast charging, all that jazz, I decided, and also I've heard it's going to be cheaper. So I've decided I'm going to wait for the iPhone 12, which is supposed to come out later this year, pending COVID. So this news is important to me, I guess is how I'll lead with this. And I have some strong thoughts on it, and we're going to kind of do a roundtable on this. There are rumors coming out. So first there was a rumor last week. I kind of have my earlobe to the ground on the iPhone rumor mill that it was going to be boxed with a fast charger, 20-watt charger, which is something that normally you'd have to buy special. Now this week we're finding that no, they filed a patent for a 20-watt charger, but there are rumors that the phone isn't going to come with a charger in the box at all. Purportedly, they're sticking with the Lightning charger, and they also have wireless charging as well. So they maybe are figuring that more people will simply use the chargers they already have, and that way they can cut down on waste by not shipping extra chargers. Before I state my counterpoint, because I disagree with this move, I just want to know from you guys, where do you stand on this as a business practice? As someone, if you're buying a phone that costs many hundreds of dollars, are you upset that you're not getting a charger? I guess is the operative question.
So, as someone very in deep with the iPhone ecosystem, I'm not Apple anything else except for my iPhone, but I am in deep at this point. I think I've had an iPhone since the iPhone 3, and now I'm at the iPhone 11. I don't upgrade every year, but I would say probably like every 2 or 3 years, depending on what model I get. If I get like the more jacked up version of the current iPhone, I'll usually wait a little bit longer. And so for me personally, I am still a little bit upset, but I can see where they're coming from. So I know for me, my last jump, I went from having a phone that was not a Lightning charger to one that was Lightning charger. And if you buy a Lightning charger cable, they're not cheap. They're like $20. And if I'm buying a phone that's $1,000, I want that $20 charger. I think it should be included. I understand where they're coming from, though, thinking that many people already have them, because once you have your first charger, I mean, I think at this point I have like 5 Lightning chargers. I have one in my office at work that's still in my office and hasn't been touched in a long time. I have the one that came with my phone that was my primary one. I have one in my car so I can hook it up to my Subaru Starlink. I know I have a 4th one somewhere. I think just if I have like a mobile charger. And then I do also have my primary charger, which is a wireless charger now at the moment. But I think if I was new to the Apple ecosystem, that would be very off-putting. I think to me, this kind of sends the message that they're probably anticipating a more wireless future, because like for me, when I get the next iPhone, I won't need to get another charging cable, because I'm not going to abandon my current wireless charger unless the wattages change or the voltages or whatever. I should know more about this. I don't really understand wireless charging technology, but as long as it's compatible, I'm not going to buy a new one. I'm going to keep using what I've already got. But like I said, if you're new to the ecosystem, and especially since they have proprietary cables, that's kind of a sketchy move. So that kind of leads me to think, like, are they potentially conforming? Like, are they going to get rid of the lightning cable altogether? Are they finally going to move to the USB-C charger and conform to literally everyone else in the world? And maybe that's why they don't want to do it?
Super unlikely. There's the article I have in front of me from The Verge speculates on some of this stuff, and Techtic, I will give you your chance in a minute. But I want to speak to a couple of things you said. One, the USB-C thing, there's speculation that that's why they're headed in this direction. There's also this writer from The Verge gave a very reasonable suggestion of Apple can essentially avoid a lot of consumer resentment by saying, okay, you have a choice when you get a new phone with us. We can give you a free charger, or we can give you a gift card to the Apple Store for equal value, which I think is a fantastic idea. I don't think they'll ever do it, but I think it's a good idea. I think Apple is probably going to try and hide behind this decision by saying they're reducing waste, which I think is probably the thing they care about the least. I think what they're trying to do is A, make money off chargers, B, move towards the portless design, which is in the future. That's already being rumored for the next model of iPhone. So, yeah, I don't like this, for the record. I think, for a piece of cord that probably costs 2 cents to make, to not include it with a $700 phone it's not the right move, even if your concern is actually the environment, which I guarantee you theirs is not.
I mean, it does have a really good point from the eco-friendly side. I was reading the Verge article that you had sent me. And it is incredible how much waste is generated, because I think I have a drawer of random cords. I don't even necessarily know what they came from, when I got them, or what they're used for. Obviously they're micro USB or stuff like that, so I know what they're used for.
But if the goal was waste, they would conform to what everyone else connects to.
Right.
Exactly. I it would, maybe this is the cynic in me, but it would shock me if they cared about the environment at all in this regard. And I really do think it's just a money grab, or just, I don't even know. I don't know what else I would describe it to. But Techtic, where do you sit on this?
So as an avid Android procurer, I think this is just the same shtick that they did before. We're going to get rid of the auxiliary port, and you got to buy this adapter if you want to use plug-in headphones. It's right. To cut corners, to maximize profit, but also increase sales in other ways. And yes, you can hide it behind the veil of we're helping the environment, but again, I'm going to say it again louder for the people in the back. If they really cared, they would commonize the ports so that everyone, whether you're from a different ecosystem or you're in the iPhone ecosystem, you just have the same charger. There is no unique Apple product.
The proprietary port, the Lightning port, they can say it's better in a certain way all they want. It is just them. It is just them being about, we want to make sure people have to buy our crap. It's as simple as that. And from a business perspective, I can kind of understand it. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, we've seen in recent months, I think it's mostly countries in Europe who are actually moving forward with universal charger legislation of this is ridiculous. Let's get this sorted out, and let's get everybody on the same page. It's a quality of life thing. So I guess I was expecting more of a debate here. I'm not sure why I was expecting someone to dissent.
I think in the future, we're definitely moving towards that, where if they did commonize the port, I think that we would live in a world where you wouldn't get a new one with every device that you buy. And there are already devices where, think about when they got rid of the block to plug into the wall, when all of your chargers used to come with that block to plug the USB cord into the wall so you could charge via your regular electricity instead of plugging it into the computer or whatever. Bumbling this argument, but we all I remember when they stopped shipping it with the wall ports, I was very upset. Now that I have 15
when I didn't
of them,
get one with my when I didn't get one with my Fitbit, I was upset. I think I only have one.
You only have one?
I think I only have one. I'll have to look. But
but either way, you can now replace wall outlets with USBs in them, and it's just USB ports have become so grossly common that no one even thinks about not having a wall port.
Right. And like, to me, that was something that was humongous. I was so upset about that the first time I opened a device. And I think it was a Kindle, honestly. And the Kindle didn't have one of those wall chargers. And I was very upset. And then I opened a drawer and realized I had a bunch of them. So it didn't really matter. And I think this might be one of those things where at first there's going to be initial outrage. But once everyone realizes like, oh, I already have a lot of the stuff that I already need here. Like, I don't need another set of headphones. Because I think they're also talking about, the rumor said that it wouldn't be shipping with headphones either. And like,
those headphones suck anyways. I'm just throwing that out there. They're terrible.
They're lower quality, but I actually really like the fit of Apple's earbuds. It's one of my main draws to AirPods over other wireless.
Yeah, you have weird ears.
Well, I don't like
do you have AirPods?
I do have AirPods. I don't like all of the headphones have like the suction thing, the rubber thing. I hate that. It hurts my ears. They don't fit in my ears. I hate that a lot. And so the AirPods.
I agree with Techtic. You have weird ears because I've tried on Apple headphones and I'm like, these are made for alien ears. Like,
those
they don't fit in my ears at all.
Apple headphones are the only headphones that will stay in my ears when running. Period. Even the corded ones.
Nuts.
Like I've got like the knockoff Beats because I didn't want to spend money on Beats if they would just fall out. But I bought like knockoff Beats that were very highly rated and supposedly super ergonomic. The ones with the hooks that go around your ear still fall out. Yeah. The AirPods are the only thing that stay in my ear.
She's got eye canals.
But before
she got weird ears.
Before the AirPods came out though, and before I had that as my definitive headphone, like, man, for every new Apple device I had, I don't even know, like, I feel like I have more Apple headphones than I even did Apple devices because I don't know. I somehow have a lot of them. I've got like 10 pairs of them and I don't use them. And it comes in handy when you lost your headphones and you can just go in your drawer and there's a nice new one that you can pull out. But like, how many people actually use them? People have a favorite set of headphones now for the most part. They don't need stock headphones.
Well, and you know, it all comes down to, in my opinion, the portless thing. When phones start to go portless and when everything is wireless charged, then you don't have this problem anymore. And Apple is not going to be able to make a wireless charger that only works for iPhone. I would hope they wouldn't be able to do that. So this problem is going to go away and everyone's going to have wireless chargers already. And you're not going to have to ship a phone with chargers in the box. And it's going to be more normalized. But right now, I don't think the percentage of people that uses wireless charging, I mean, I don't think the percentage of people who use it has reached critical mass yet for that move to make sense. But that's my opinion. You know, I think with headphones, I think most people use Bluetooth headphones now. So I think taking the headphone port out, yes, it was a jump. People didn't like it, but they weathered that storm because more people use Bluetooth. And I don't know if as many people, I'd have to see the numbers on that, but I don't know if more people use wireless charging or if enough people use it now to justify that move.
I have to say wireless charging, because I do have a wireless charger that I got for Christmas and I was super stoked about it and I do still really enjoy it, but it's kind of weird. It doesn't, like, you have to align your phone just right for it to work.
Well, and you can't be using the phone while it's charging, which to me is a huge detriment.
Well, for me, like now that I have the iPhone 11, my phone battery time, like, it can last all day, even if I'm on it all day. So like, I only really need to charge it at night and I hope it stays that way. I hope my battery life on this phone is a lot longer than my iPhone 7 because that's why I traded it in so quickly. But it's really like, I find myself, the convenience, quote unquote, of the wireless charging pad was you can just throw your phone down and it'll work. But I find that's really not the case. And even, it's not just my wireless pad, it's other wireless pads. Like, you pretty much have to align it just right. And to me, like, that kind of defeats the convenience. Like, then I might just take the 30 seconds and plug in my cable. So I hope they improve that aspect. Like, it is convenient when I'm grabbing it from my bedside table and I just want to look at it and I'm not like choking myself with the cable as I grab it off the bedside table, but it's not mainstream.
Sounds like you have cable management problems over there.
I mean, the iPhone cable that you get with your phone is fairly short, so I was definitely like, to reach it all the way so it was in front of my face, I was definitely like kind of choking myself out. But
well, it's see, my phone battery lasts all day too. My lowly iPhone 6, the battery lasts all day because I guess I don't use my phone a whole lot. But there are quite a few times where at night when I get into bed, it's at like 5%, and then I want to use it a little bit longer. I have to plug it in, So in that situation, I can imagine that wireless charging wouldn't be great for me. But then there would also be cases where during the day when I'm not using it, I just put it down and, assuming it works exactly the way I imagine it does, it just sounds like it doesn't work as well. I would just plunk it down and it would be charging while I wasn't using it.
You shouldn't be using your iPhone in bed right before you go to sleep. If it's dark and stuff, you're just going to stimulate your brain and you're not going to be able to sleep.
Oh, all right, Mom. Thanks, Mom. We're going to move on now. The iPhone comes out later this year. It's rumored to be in September, but I'm hearing now it might be in October because of COVID. But we'll know more about this situation then. For right now, we have a little bit of time. We're going to move into What Are You Up To Wednesday, where we all talk about what we've been up to, believe it or not. I'm going to start because fairly short update here. I'm still playing The Last of Us 2. For me, it's a lot of game. And I think for the most part, that's because I play these games slowly, games in which you're incentivized. I'm a gatherer in these situations. I will go in any house that I can, regardless of threats, to get one bullet from my gun if I have to. So as a result, for me, it takes a lot of time, and also I die a lot because I'm not very good at it.
Have you found any of the secret hidden scenes yet?
I see. The thing is, I'm not sure because they're blended very well. You wouldn't know if you missed them. Yeah, the way I hunt around for things, I would imagine I found at least one. I don't know for sure, but I would have to imagine I've found at least one. I don't want to look anything up because of spoilers. So when I get to the end of the game, then I'll be able to go back and say, okay, what did I miss? And then I'll know better. But for right now, what I'll say is that I love it so much. It's right up there with the first one for me still. And you'll probably hear the same update from me next week when I talk about it more, because I'm sure by then I won't be done with it. It's a lot of game, and that's good. For me, that pretty much sums up the week. Not a whole lot going on here, but Techtic.
So
go to you.
For my past week, we're basically coming to a close on Avatar: The Last Airbender. Always exciting to rewatch. I will rewatch this show thousands of times. One of my favorite animated series or shows, whatever you want to call it. Great job, whoever made it. I will watch you 1,000 times. The other thing that I want to, kind of a shameless plug, I guess, is an announcement that tomorrow I will be releasing the first of my Tinkering with Techtic videos. It'll be originally available just to our Patreon subscribers, and then 2 weeks later, after early access, the vast public will be able to watch it. I am starting with Raspberry Pi and going into who knows what at this moment, but I'm excited and I hope you guys enjoy it as well. Nerdbomber.
Looking forward to it, man.
So this past week, I had the pleasure of being on the Hugos There Podcast. I guested and we talked about a book called Ancillary Justice. So that episode should be coming out soon if you guys want to tune in. We definitely had a great discussion about that book. Definitely recommend. It was one of the Hugo winners. I don't want to give too much away, but basically goes into the main character is an AI from a ship who gets separated from her ship and has to find her way back and or carry out a mission. I don't want to give away much, but you can listen to that discussion. But since then, I've started reading the sequel, and without, again, giving away any spoilers, I will say that it's been a very interesting read, but it kind of departs a little bit from some of the things that made the first book stand out to me. It's a little bit more focused, and it's more focused on the characters' just relationships, I guess. I don't know. It just feels different somehow. The first book was a lot more sweeping and grandiose, and it felt like you were in the middle of this epic tale. And now there's just a lot of minutia, and it's not as compelling as the first book. It's still very good. It's just a very different style of book. So if you like space operas, though, I definitely think you should check out the series. It's definitely very interesting. It won a Hugo Award for a reason. So Ancillary Justice and Ancillary Sword is the second book. Sorry.
Well, right on. You jogged my memory. I've been reading too. You guys know I'm a Stephen King guy. The Green Mile, which I've never seen the movie.
Oh my goodness. Fantastic movie. You need to watch it.
It's a lot between that and The Last of Us and looking out the window at the world. Very doom and gloom all the time over here. I gotta find something happier, because The Green Mile is about granted, it's about a guy who can like heal people, but it's also like the whole thing takes place on death row, basically. So not really an upper, but really good so far. Techtic, you have a game for us today, and it's about wine. So if anything can cheer me up, it's probably that. So just take it away.
So as usual, we are going to be doing Price is Right style trivia, and today's topic is wine-based trivia. So without further ado, let's get right into it. For my first question, what is the earliest evidence of wine being produced?
Okay, I'll go first on this because I'm feeling confident. This is a long time. Like this, we're talking BC situation here for sure. So I'm gonna go with 3000 BC. I'm swinging for the fences.
I'm going to say 5000 BC. I feel like that might bust, but I don't care. I'm going to go for it.
Busting is too late, so I don't think you're going to be busting. I think you might just be early.
Oh, that's right. So I gave myself a smaller window. When we get into BC and 80, it always confuses me.
So the bigger the number, the less likely you are to bust with BC because it's technically further back.
Right.
If you can change your answer now, understanding.
No, I'm going to stick with it.
BC and AD if you want. Okay.
So Nerdbomber was far closer. But both of you busted. The answer was 7000 BC, and it was discovered in China.
Yeah, people have been making wine. I can't imagine figuring that out 7000 BC of like, oh, if we put these grapes in a cave for a while, we get loopy.
I feel like they probably did it on accident. Like they collected grapes and then they tried to just like store them and it turned into mushy stuff that they drank. And then we're like, oh shit, we're fucked up. Sorry, language. But
that's what they said. 7000 BC. That's what they said.
It's written on like the old, like the papyrus from back in the Chinese days. I guess they would use rice paper. I don't know. What did the Chinese people write on back in the ancient times?
Paper.
We'll get our fact checker on that.
What is... I'm just going to ignore you and keep going. What is the highest percentage of wine in the world?
What is that? I don't even understand what that question means.
What is the highest percentage alcohol content of wine in the world?
Okay.
I feel like...
Nerdbomber, you're first this time.
I'm going to say 14.8%. I don't think I've seen anything higher than that, now that it doesn't exist.
It's higher than that, but it's not much higher. I think we're still in the teens. There's like rules for this, by the way. As far as I understand it, there are rules that if you go above this, you're no longer considered wine. You get into like, I don't know if port is technically wine or if it's dessert wine, but that has a high alcohol content most of the time, I think. I'm gonna say 16%, which is not much higher than what you said, but I think it's above 15. So I'm gonna say 16.
So Illeagle takes it. The answer is actually 20%.
What?
As the highest. And one example of such...
That sounds right.
Oh, is that like an ice wine maybe?
Is a wine called Madeira, otherwise known as island wine, and it can be found in Portugal.
Interesting. I think
ice wine is high alcohol content.
Yeah, I feel like when you get those like super sweet and kind of syrupy wines, I think it's high alcohol content. Because even that's why they sell ice wine in like teeny tiny bottles. Well, that and it's expensive to make.
I was about to Google ice wine, but then I figured I thought better of it considering that we're still mid quiz. But I'm on the board. Before we do the next question, let's go around the room. Red or white? I'm a white wine person.
Dry white.
Dry white. Yeah, that's I like a nice dry Riesling. So I think I go like semi-dry, semi-sweet. I'm not like a Chardonnay person. That's the bridge too far. But
I love me some Chardonnay, man. Chardonnay is great. I like a nice Pinot Gris though. It's super good. Sauv Blanc. We talked about this a little bit on our podcast, or the secret segment.
Yeah, Hayes loves Chardonnay. Sauvignon Blanc is pretty good. I can get there on that.
I like a nice quiz that's not interrupted.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Dad. All right, go ahead.
What is
I'm
on
getting
record
straight parented today?
The most expensive bottle of wine, and this is based on what it was auctioned off at.
Oh boy, I'm glad I don't. Do I have to go first on this one? No, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Boy, it's in the millions. That much I can. $2.5 million. I think it's in the low millions, but it's in the millions.
I think I'm gonna go with 200,000 because I don't know. I think you might be too high, but I'm worried about busting myself. So
Nerdbomber's hunch was correct. You far and away busted. The most expensive sold for $558,000. It was a 73-year-old French Burgundy.
So
I would be afraid to open it. I would never open that.
yeah, it does beg the question, especially if you paid $2.5 million for it. Now that I think about it, you could never drink it. So what?
No,
why-
it's something
why
to
buy it?
brag about. Look how expensive I paid for this.
I would just think like Jeff Bezos would bust in there and be like, I'll pay $10 million for it because that's
And then he would immediately just uncork it and start guzzling it out of the bottle.
Exactly. It's a Playboy thing to do. Anyways, so we're tied now.
I have to say, though, I have never
very
heard
exciting.
Jeff Bezos and Playboy in the same sentence before.
Oh, he's a Playboy. You better believe it. I don't have examples, but I can imagine.
How big
Techtic?
is the largest bottle of wine ever sold?
Hey, what are the units? What are the units here?
Liters.
Liters. Okay, that makes sense.
I go first on this one.
You do go first, yeah.
So I know there's a specific... I mean, honestly, there's box wine, but there's also those stupid Carlo Rossi jugs of table wine.
No, the stipulation is that it's a bottle.
Oh, so it has to be a bottle. Okay, then, so those Carlo Rossi jugs do not count.
It has to be a bottle.
But technically it is. It's just a giant glass bottle. I just want to clarify. Okay, then I'm going to say 2 liters because there's probably one that's more, but 1.5 liters is usually like the max that you see.
I'm going to say the largest bottle.
What's a magnum? Okay, so you said 2 liters. I know it's higher than that. So I'm just going to say 3 because I know it's higher than that too. So go ahead, Dr.
All
Lay
right,
it
so
on
you
me.
guys are aware that you can manufacture very large bottles, right?
Yeah.
Okay, do you guys want to try again?
No, well, I don't want to because I'll get the point, but sure.
No, that's not fair. That's not fair. Okay, you said specifically bottle over and over and over again.
Well, yeah,
So
but
You were going down
like,
box wine, bagged wine. Can you
can
put
make
in a
a-
satchel wine? Sure.
I was talking about like the jug that's technically a glass bottle, but it's a jug.
Right, but you can make a bottle that's like as big as a house, technically.
Well, I think
that's what
a
Techtic's
house
getting at.
then. That's not a bottle, but whatever.
If it's a glass bottle-shaped house, then it could be a
And the
bottle.
question should
It's
have
all
been a
semantics.
glass vessel, but it's fine.
Boy, you're getting on the Quizmaker. What was the answer, Techtic?
It was 130 liters.
Okay, so we were a bit far away from the actual answer, but that's okay. I'll take the point. We're impressing a lot of people. So now I'm up by a point if my math is correct.
Here's a bonus question. How much
Okay.
did that bottle auction off for?
It was 130 liters, you said?
Correct.
Okay, and I go first this time. Well, I know it wasn't 2.5 million. Not much. I'm guessing they filled this thing with like $2 chuck. I'm gonna say 50 G's.
I'm gonna say $1, Bob.
So question, did you take $2 chuck and the average 1 liter bottle and multiply it by
No, I should have, but I
130?
didn't.
Because I wouldn't have done that. Your math was far better. The answer was $55,812.
Wow. I mean, come on, guys. That's pretty impressive. I know my enormously cartoonish bottles of wine.
So with that, Nerdbomber has no chance of winning. So I'm just going to finish it off with a fun fact. Did you know if you take grape juice and add yeast to it, it can take 7 to 21 days for that to turn into wine?
I didn't know that.
I did know that because my little brother tried to do it once under our basement stairs using yeast, grape juice, and you need a filtration element. And maybe because he saw it on the internet or something, he used a condom. True
No,
story, guys.
No.
I don't think it worked. I don't really know whether it worked.
Oh,
I didn't
God.
want to know whether it worked. He was doing that. He was hiding this from my parents, by the way. Don't drink underage.
You know, little kids are resourceful when it comes to getting drunk underage. My goodness.
Yeah, but okay.
Like, you
Let me
guys
just say
didn't
this to
have
our
any
listeners out
coffee
there.
filters in the house? Like, come on.
Wait, he had access
he-
to... Never mind.
I don't know, but the point I'm trying to make is, if you youngins who listen to this podcast, I'm sure there are many. If you ever find yourself putting a condom on the top of a bottle of grape juice you've just poured yeast into, stop for a second and take a step back and think about the choices that you're making. That's all I really wanted to say. I'll have to ask him whether it was good or not. I think he did try and drink it, but I can't imagine that it was good.
That's so grody. Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, he took the condom off the bottle before he.
It's still grody. I'm
Drank.
sorry, it's still grody.
No, sure. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree, obviously. The things you'll do to hide drinking from your parents.
Like, I have so many questions. They're inappropriate for this show, but I have so many questions. Like, it didn't have any other things on it when he used it? Like, it didn't get in the wine? Like, he wasn't drinking straight, like, lube?
You're already just going way too far. Why don't we table this for a future secret segment where I break down the whole story? And for now, we call it a day. It's a great thing to end the show with.
Feels like a video vlog.
It does feel like a video vlog. We want to thank you all for showing up, even in spite of that last part. We love doing this. We love the people actually show up and listen to us, so we thank you. Again, we're on the social medias at OWLegal86, at OWTechtic, at OW Nerdbomber, and our main account at Online Warriors 1. You can also hit us up on Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. If you hate us or love us or just feel generally middling about us, either way, we want to know. So we thank you all again, and we'll talk at you next week.
Adios.